So in this video we're going to learn how to color a drawn image using Adobe Photoshop CS4. And there are a couple of basic things, 6 basic things that I'm going to call keys to coloring the image in Photoshop that we're going to go over in this video. So keep track of these things. We're going to start off by looking at layer modes. Layer modes are available by looking at the layer panel, and you can see which layer mode you're in by looking at the layer panel. You can tell what the layer mode is by looking at the layers menu, and this menu right here shows us what the layer modes are. We are specifically going to deal with most of our layers at normal, some of them at multiply, and we can also affect the layer's opacity or transparency by adjusting this slider right here. The next key to coloring your image in Photoshop is layers, keeping your color and your line work on different layers. You can also preserve your hard work by using layers to separate different things you're working on at different times. This way you don't wind up drawing over something you did earlier that went well and ruining it potentially. The third thing is using selections. By creating selections with the marquee tool, the magic wand, or the lasso tools, you can create a selection and just dump the color into it instead of having to be real specific with your brush. This is a quick and easy way to fill in artwork. The fourth key is color theory. Now this is kind of a non-Photoshoppy idea, but looking at color theory, knowing how to use the correct hue, saturation, and brightness for different parts of your image really helps your viewer focus on what they should be looking at. We'll talk about that more in depth when we get to understanding color theory in this video. The fifth key is opacity. Opacity is another word for transparency, and you're going to use opacity to apply color slowly or gradually with the brush tool. This way you can sort of layer in things gradually and gently instead of having a real dark paint swatch. It's kind of like using watercolor. The last key is brush selections. Knowing how to use your brushes, how to change your brush size and other properties to get the best results for what you're working on. As a demonstration sample, I've set up this scanned drawing, and as you see, it's pretty rough. We're going to clean up the line work for this character and this character in Adobe Illustrator and color the rest without any line work in it. So we're going to use selections to color the background here. One good thing to know about is the image size and resolution of your picture. So check image size, look at the dialog box, make sure you've got resolution of at least 150, 300 is always better, and at least 10 inches wide on your picture. So this is about 10 by 7, and okay. So now we're going to go about the business of applying color to our image. When we start off, we only have one layer to start off with. So what we want to do is make sure we always have a backup for this should anything go awry. So what I'm going to do is drag the background layer onto the new layer button, just like that. And now I've got a backup. We're going to shut that one off for now. And on top of that, we're going to add an empty layer right here that's blank that we can do our color in. Now the layer on top, the background copy, notice that if I take some color and apply it to the background with, say, the brush tool, okay, I can see it eventually. Let's just use the bucket tool for that. So I can see it in the layer panel in the area that's been selected. So why is it not showing up in the rest of my picture? If I get this whole thing filled in, the reason is the background layer needs to change its layer mode. So we're going to change the layer mode to multiply, and now we can see through it. Now that's not really the color I want, so I'm going to take this layer here, drag it out of the garbage can, and get rid of it. So now I'm going to add a new empty layer on which I'm going to do my initial coloring. Now the first thing I'm going to concern myself with is the color of the house. So I'm going to actually rename this layer by double clicking on the layer name and calling it house. Very creative. Okay, so now I'm going to maybe hide the layers panel and get it out of the way, and I'm going to use initially I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool. And remember, I'm on a separate layer from my line work. I'm not going to destroy my line work in this process. So I've got my my selection there with the rectangular marquee tool. If I use subtract from selection, I can then remove the garage door from the selection. I can also use the polygonal lasso tool to subtract from the selection by click, 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 and clicking to create a selection there that will be recused from the selection area. Let's do one more remove selection here. That gives us a sense of depth and perspective on the house. Now I'm only going to worry about the paint right now, so I'm going to pick a color. And a real quick introduction to color. Let's take a look at this color window. This, if I choose H for hue, saturation, and brightness, H is hue or the specific color. It refers to a color range. The primary colors being red, yellow, and blue, and the secondary colors being green, pink, orange, violet, violet, green, and orange. So this is my hue, but over here, saturation is how bright is it, how strong is the color. If it's too bright, it's going to call attention to itself. Now, clearly sometimes you want that, but a background element like a house, we want to sort of fade into the background and not stand out as the main character. So I'm thinking about a stucco colored house, sort of beige-ish, and I want it desaturated, and I want it sort of darkened because it's nighttime. So now notice if I want too bright, it's very much going to call attention to itself. So we drag the saturation down, and the brightness is down, so the less brightness, the darker the color. And let's take that color and real quick, like, use the paint bucket tool and drop it in and fill in the house. So that's going pretty good. You may notice that's also going under the color of my vampire character here, and that's okay, because later I'm going to drag a line work copy of him in there and color that on a separate layer. So I can color lots of things and create a lot of different pieces on different layers, and this line work that I've created here is eventually going to be deleted. Okay, let's work on a few other pieces. Now, I like that line work and that color, the color there, so I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to choose Select and Deselect, or Control D to deselect that area. And now let's make a new selection. This layer, is going to be called Windows. Okay, so I'm going to get that out of my way, and I'm going to select Windows, like this, and I can create all my windows at one time. I kind of want to pay attention to how lined up they are. So I want to pay attention to the high spots and the low spots. Let's assume the lights are on in every room. Let's say these are electricity wasters. Okay, so now I'm going to use a nice pale shade of yellow to fill that in with, and it's still pretty imperious, but it's because there's light in the darkness, and we're going to work with that some more later. And what else I can do with this is if I choose a new selection area around that box, and let's create a trim color. So if I choose a color from back there and I darken it up a little bit, let's say this house has dark brown trim, then I can apply my trim. So I'm starting to find a way to create quick and easy and sort of believable windows and pieces to my house. Okay, so as you can see, that's a little bit off, so you want to pay attention to where your selection starts and ends. Okay, so there's this, and I'm filling that in. So now I've got windows, and there's clearly a lot more I could do to get my windows figured out, like I could put blinds or curtains or window shades in that, and I'll come back to that as I work my way forward.